Hi everybody, my name is Sarah Yakowanis, and today I'm going to teach you how to make a paper flower inspired by Monet's painting of Jerusalem Artichoke flower. So everything that you see in this video, the floral tape, the floral wire, all the papers, it all comes in my kit, which you can get at foldedpetal.com or at etsy.foldedpetal.com. So the first step of this flower is to wrap a piece of floral wire in floral tape. And floral tape is very weird. It really doesn't have any stick at all. And the very little stick that it does achieve is achieved by stretching it. And it's only really going to want to stick to itself and to paper, which makes it ideal for making paper flowers. So the motion that you see me doing here of stretching the floral tape and twisting the wire, that's how you're going to coat that wire in floral tape. And I like 3 coats of floral tape on this flower. You really don't come by too many flowers that have the stem that is the width of a 18 gauge piece of floral wire. So I like to add a little bit more with the floral tape to give it a little bit more lifelike feeling. And the next thing we're going to do is, this is a sheet that has the stamen and the petals. So the first thing I'm going to do is cut out one of those stamen strips. And you really don't have to cut it out perfectly. I like to leave a little bit of white on the bottom and cut right into the color on the top. But other than that, you really don't have to cut it right on the line. It's much better to cut into the color and be a little bit wobbly with it if your hand does that than to make a straight line. It really isn't going to make any difference at all. So the next thing we're going to do is fold it in half. Fold it in half one more time. And fold it in half again. And the reason why we do this is just to save time. We're going to fringe it, and it's going to take much longer to fringe a whole strip than to fringe just a quarter of a strip. And you get the whole strip fringed if you do it this way. So what you're going to do, how I like to fringe my paper, is hold the scissor on your finger like that, and then hold the thing that you're going to fringe with these 2 fingers like that. And just keep an eye on this finger, because, not keep an eye on it, but be aware of where it is, because it could be pretty easy to cut your hand. If you notice, my hands have a couple of scars on them, and that's because sometimes I am not the most careful. And as you can see, it's so easy. It almost does it like naturally. You're just chopping, 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 and with almost no movement of either of my hands, the whole thing gets fringed, because the cut is almost never going to land on the same place twice. And when you get to the end, I like to flip it around like that and start again from this side in, because as you get a little bit closer to your thumb, I think it's something in your brain that kind of freaks out that a big pair of scissors is chomping that close to your important thumb, and so it freaks out and you get less than a fine fringe. So now I'm just going to open that up. And it's perfect. And it took just, a quarter of the time that it would have to fringe that whole sheet. And now I'm going to start wrapping the stem. And making a little tuft at the top, because that's going to be our stamen. And you're going to want to keep an eye on this bottom part here as you do this. It's going to want to drift up and down, and if you can kind of keep an eye on it and guide it back the way so it's nice and flush, that's going to really help you out. Because if it drifts too far down, it starts to look like a pine cone almost. Every once in a while you're going to want to stroke them up, because they do like to get a little bit tangled with each other. And just like that. And now we're going to get our floral tape back out. And we're just going to secure that at the bottom with a little bit of floral tape. And I like to go with in the direction that I've been wrapping it in because it just helps make a nice tight bond. And I'm going to go back around the other way just to make sure that that's really stuck on there. Perfect. So the next step is to rub it in between your hands a little bit and get it nice and fluffy. And then we're going to we're going to shape this stamen a little bit because it's too big and you don't want it, you still want a nice full stamen for sure, but you don't want it that full. It looks weird. So I am just holding these scissors at an angle and turning the stamen. And that's going to give me a nice cone shape. And then I'm just going to trim off the top of that cone and get any of these loose little flyaways. Perfect. And the next step is to cut out a piece of the petal. So to do that, I'm going to leave the white on the top of the bottom so that next stamen strip is going to be all ready to go for the next flower that we make. Because like I said, this kit makes a dozen flowers. And so right here, there's a very, very faintly printed template on the top of that strip. So I'm just going to trim really, really close to that template. And the reason why we do this is because we're going to accordion fold it, and you don't want that extra to kind of make a gap in between the petals, because as you can see later in the steps, accordion folding is just a really easy way, again, to make a dozen cuts in one go. So I'm just going to accordion fold that really close to the template. The closer you can get to the template, the more petals you're going to get out of the strip. And so you don't have to watch me accordion fold this whole thing because it is a bit of a tedious process. I have one all ready to go. So that is all accordion folded, really nice and flush to the template. And now this petal has kind of like a rounded tip. And so the way that I've found to get the best rounded tip out of a flower like this is you're going to want to start on one side and loop around to the other side. And then finish that cut. And we're going to want to keep this bottom part intact. So we just want that petal shape on the top, but the bottom part of the strip is going to stay exactly the way it is. And you want a nice sharp pair of scissors when you're doing this. There's nothing more dangerous in a craft studio than a dull pair of scissors. So now we have that all cut out. And we're going to open it up. And we are going to separate a couple of these they were folded a little bit too close together. And I think it's always better to be a little bit too close together than too far apart, because this is going to yield more petals. So I'm just going to go through and separate these petals. Awesome. And now I'm going to separate these into groups of 4. I have one left over, so I'll just set that aside. This is going to be plenty to make the petal. And now, so if you get a little bit of white like that, just kind of trim it away. And now I'm going to fold these again, but we're going to fold them a little bit differently than the accordion fold. We're just going to fold them so that they overlap like that. See how they're kind of overlapping like that? Perfect, just like that. And we're going to do the same thing to all of the other petals in that strip. And I have some already all done. And we're going to get our stamen back out. And our tape. And we're going to start adding these petals. So you just want to take that and make the bottom part really flush with the bottom of that stamen and just wrap it around. Just like that. Then we're going to get our tape out and tape that right to the stamen. Perfect. And then we'll take another one and go kind of, I like to overlap it. So this one's kind of going a little bit rogue from this other bunch. So I'm going to start this one right there, and it should create a nice even coverage. You can't always 100% control where the petals go, but there's plenty of petals in this so that you'll definitely have enough to make a nice full bloom, no matter how rogue your petals go. Just like that. And then we're going to open it up. You can always kind of direct them a little bit too. Like if you think that there's a gap, be careful though, because they will you can pluck those petals right off too if you're too rough with them. And then you just keep on doing that all the way around and fluff out that stamen a little bit. So you just keep on adding petals like that. But I think that you have enough information to be able to do that. So I have this one already all cut out with all of the petals from one strip on there. Pardon me. And so now we are going to do the neck of the petal, or the neck of the flower. And so this is a piece from the neck pieces that we have. And we're going to take that and roll it halfway down. Just like that. The more tightly you roll it, the more curve your neck piece is going to have. And then you're going to unroll it and cut out those spikes. They're pretty faint, and they're faint on purpose, just like everything else in this. They don't have to be perfect. The natural variations that your hand make are going to so much more clearly represent what the actual flowers look like. No two flowers have exactly the same petals or necks or anything like that. So those natural variations are going to be way better than being a perfectionist about it. And so I have one already cut out, and I'm just going to take that and roll it up. And I actually like to give it just a tiny little notch right at the bottom. That kind of helps it conform to the stem a little bit better. It doesn't have to be big, and you don't even have to do it, but I like to do it. I think it helps a lot. Now I'm going to take this, and I'm just going to wrap that bottom up, just like that. Give it a couple of pinches to get it to conform to that bottom, just like that. Now I'm going to take my floral tape and secure that to the stem with a little bit of floral tape. Let's see, it's starting to drift down a little bit, so I'm just going to press it up. Oh, it's being a jerk. We'll get it there. There we go. That'll stay. And I think one more coat of floral tape will get that nice and secure right on there. Awesome. And that's just a really small detail, but I really think it makes a big difference on this flower. It's just so pretty with that stem piece on there. So the next thing we're going to do is I have a piece of this stem paper cut out. It comes in a whole sheet of this, and we're going to start. As you can see, there's kind of a gradation. It goes from a darker green to a lighter green. So I like to start with a darker green because it matches that neck piece a little bit better. I'm going to trim the white from the end. And now I'm just going to start wrapping it. I'm going to do a nice even beginning to that. And it tore a little bit. This paper does tear really easily, so don't let it get you down if it tears. Just keep going. And this paper sticks to that floral tape really nicely, so all you have to do is kind of pinch it in and it's going to stick really nicely. And so I have it down an inch or so, and I'm going to start putting on the leaves. And I actually think the leaves are the trickiest part of this flower. And I'm just going to secure that with a little bit of floral tape. So I have 3 sizes of leaves in this kit, and they come on a big beautiful sheet, and there's so many leaves because this flower has a ton of leaves on it. So I'm going to start with this medium-sized leaf first. So the first thing we're going to do is fold it in half. Try not to fold too much of that actual stem part, but you just want the leaf itself to have a nice crisp, clean fold. And we're going to put that right onto the stem. And even though this bottom part kind of looks like a stem, we don't want it to really act that way. We want it to mainly get taped into the actual stem of the flower, and that's just going to add a little bit more support for that leaf. Awesome. So this is the tricky part of this flower. This leaf wants to be this way, and we want it to be that way. So the best way I found to achieve that is we're going to take the leaf and we're going to fold it back the other way for about 3/4 of it. Almost to the end, like that. And the tension between this fold going this way and this, so this fold is going this way and this fold is going this way, and the tension that's created right at that little spot is what gives it that beautiful angle. So that's I think the hardest part of this flower, is getting the hang of the leaves. And don't worry, there are so many leaves in this kit that if you mess a few up, it's not a big deal. There's going to be plenty to make a beautiful arrangement. And then we're just going to keep on going down with that stem paper. I think a little leaf would look cute there. So I'm going to stop, add some more floral tape, fold that in half. We're going to go on this side this time. Secure it with a little bit more floral tape. And then we're going to do the same thing, just about 3/4 of the way down. We're going to fold it in the opposite direction, and that tension gives us that beautiful angle. won't make you watch me do all 3 of these. I think that's good enough. If you have any questions, you can always go to my Facebook group. It's a Folded Petal, and there's a link to it at foldedpetal.com under more resources. I think that's the easiest way to get there. URLs are not the best thing to just kind of rattle off. And now I'm just going to finish that up. Just like that. And as a final step, and this is actually the only thing that doesn't come in the kit, is white glue. But everyone has white glue. And I use my fingers. I think it's the easiest way to get the most control out of the glue. So you're just going to rub it in between your pointer and thumb and just give it a nice coating. I think that this, because this is going to be fine, like you wouldn't even have to do this step if you were just going to make an arrangement or anything like that, but if you're really going to want to sculpt these stems, make them, you know, onto a wreath or something like that, anything that involves a lot of like really heavy bending it back and forth, the paper isn't going to like that, and it's going to start to tear and disintegrate. But if you just coat it with a little bit of glue, and then you're going to set that down and be really careful, because right now the glue has made the paper wet, and wet paper tears really easily. So you just want to set that there and let it dry for at least an hour or 2, and then it'll be totally safe to use and work with. And about 24 hours until it's completely dry. But you don't have to wait 24 hours to touch it again. Just make sure you don't touch it right away. And that is the video. I hope you enjoyed watching, and like I said, you can get this kit at foldedpetal.com or itsy.foldedpetal.com. Thanks for watching.